Hi everyone, I'm Josh.
And I'm Jim, and this is the Dapper Meeple.
This show is about our love of gaming, the games we play, and the gaming community around this passion.
So grab some snacks, pull up a chair, and join us at the table with your monocle and bowler hat. Hey kids, remember, this is an adult podcast and may contain adult language.
Also, the Dapper Meeple outfit, not required.
Hey, if we've said it once, we've said it 1,000 times. When our community organizes, we can do big things.
And well, here we go again, because if there's any industry that's going to need some support, it's definitely ours.
So we're going to talk about it and some proof that organizing does things. Here in VB, Snakes and Lattes is permanently moving out.
We're also going to help your pickup game, say goodbye to a longtime D&D employee, and spread some managed democracy in our crowdfunding roundup.
All that and more on this episode of the Dapper Meeple. So it's been a while. We missed an episode because life and all that. Josh got a new job, and my job sent me away, and we just don't have the capability to put this together when we're not in the same spot. So we hope you guys survived, and we'll try to make up for it. Probably in the next episode. Let me just be honest with you.
What a way to start.
Hey, but you know what we're not going to do during this opening? We're not going to talk about tariffs.
Yeah, that is the one way that we promise to make this slight delay up to you, is by not bringing up the fact that tariffs are crushing our economy right now.
Right, and especially in the board game industry, which we're not going to talk about, but maybe we'll give you some ideas where you can actually do something to help, and that's going to be our main section.
So first and foremost, though, we have some exciting news around here. Some new changes in the landscape of our local game stores. So we did discover a new, I guess, Warhammer type, army miniature type store.
Yeah, they seem to be focused on miniature gaming, wargaming, which is cool. We'd only have a couple places around here, and none of them are solely focused on that.
Except for Games Workshop.
Which is Games Workshop, and then they only focus on Warhammer.
Right.
So, which is obviously, I mean, it's the D&D of wargaming, really. Everybody knows it. It's been around for a while. There's a lot of messed up stuff just because of how long it's been around. Continuity is a thing that they don't do super well in some areas. But this game store, it focuses on more than just Warhammer and just kind of wargaming as a whole.
So we're talking about Forge and Factions. It is in the Chesapeake area of our local community. So if you are around here, definitely look them up, especially if you are into miniature wargaming, that sort of thing. I did want to kind of bring them up because something they do that is unique, especially around here, is they give you the opportunity if maybe you want to try your hand at painting, don't have all the supplies, you can actually rent the supplies from them. They even have a way you can do airbrushing as well.
We stopped by just to kind of check it out, and they have like tables in the back, kind of in this little like back alcove with all of the paintbrushes and paints and stuff that you would probably need to get started. I think there was a couple of tables back there, and they said the way that they do it is if you bring all your own stuff in and you just want a space to paint, which a lot of people do not have.
Yeah.
It's like $5 an hour or something like that. And if you're going to use their resources, it's like $15 an hour, which can absolutely see that being a fair price for you're going to use their paints and you're going to use, you know, their brushes and, you know, stuff that they have. And then, like you said, they do have an airbrush booth that's got the ventilation and stuff, so you can learn to airbrush to your heart's content. I do mine mostly for priming, but I mean, there are people that are really good. And I'm working on airbrushing as a painting method as well to incorporate. It's really cool that they're not just selling you stuff, they're kind of trying to build a community around it.
Yeah, and one of the things on their website mentioned how they are avid painters themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So advice and things like that is something that they're able to give as well, which I think is a really, really cool thing to have, just at a store that you can go and stop by at.
You're right. And they do have product to sell. They look like they're keeping up with kind of the newest right now. They did have some new Warhammer items that came in. The new Emperor's Children box, which I picked up for my partner because she's a fan of Slaneshi armies. Apparently, I have a type. It's cool. They also have a lot of other war games in there that I'd never heard about, not being big into it, and just kind of having most of my focus on Warhammer 40K. So definitely something to go check out. There was a couple of people in there putting minis together and painting them. The guy that was in there when we went in was Josh, but apparently there's like 4 co-owners, so you may bump into any one of them, and he was more than happy to take time, talk to us about the shop, what they were doing. Yeah, again, it feels like they're trying to build a community around it, which was really cool. So we'll definitely have to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. Wanted to give a shout out to another store that's not quite local to ours, but I was able to stop in as I was traveling for work out in the Roanoke, Virginia area. So if you're out that way, congrats. You guys actually have a really cool game store. The one that I was able to stop by is called Mishap Games. I went in there, just kind of check things out. I always try to do that when I'm out of town for work or for any other reason for that matter. And I want to say the store is actually really nice, like huge area, had some kind of specialty rooms for D&D or other RPGs. So talking with the owner, he said, that's something you could reserve or rent out depending on what you were looking for. They also had a really big selection of board games. So, and they weren't all like older games or things like that sometimes you'll find in like smaller stores. There was actually some pretty new titles. Had a lot of like variety in it. Like some stuff that you don't see very often. Like they had a copy of Blood on the Clock Tower there.
Oh yeah.
Which is usually hard to find. They had the new Lord of the Rings trick taking game, which I picked up a copy of while I was there. They also had a bunch of everything from like small box, like Sail, and other games from All Play. They had like a section of those, all the way up to like they had a couple of Zombicides and things like that as well. So definitely an interesting selection there. And while I was there, they were actually having their anniversary sale. So I had pretty much everything in the store was a percentage off depending on what it was. But they had a bunch of other like Warhammer and other wargaming supplies, along with a pretty good selection of paints and brushes and things like that. So yeah, actually really cool store. So if you're in that kind of Roanoke area, Mishap Games, definitely a cool place to check out. Talking with one of the locals that I was there working with, he said it used to be like a Thai restaurant or like Fiji something, like some kind of Asian restaurant. But he's like, yeah, once they moved in there, they really like changed the place around. There's like a nightclub in the basement or something like that. So, it's fantastic. So definitely check out Mishap Games if you happen to be in that area.
I think we definitely need more geek themed clubs, and I can't think of anywhere better to put them than in a basement.
I don't know that they're connected.
Oh, I get that. But I'm just saying, if it's not, this dude's missing a golden opportunity.
We should, just let him know in case the nightclub ever comes open. Here you go.
Right? We are more than willing to consult on this. Like, it'll be a blast. We're going to need a fog machine.
Could you imagine? So, at Gen Con when we did the True Dungeon,
yeah.
Could you imagine putting something like that in the basement of a game store?
I can, and I imagine that there's going to be small children that get lost. I'm okay with it. I'm just saying. Make sure the insurance knows, I guess.
I don't know if that's a line item you can include in your insurance.
Children may get lost. Yeah, but we'll find them, right? That depends on what kind of insurance policy you're going to give me.
It's the Anakin Padme meme. We're going to be able to find him, right? It's always the younglings.
It's always the younglings.
So in other news, talking about game stores, especially in our local area, we finally have, I don't know how to call it. Or
closure?
What. Yeah, sure. Closure sounds great. I didn't want to say victory, but... So those of you who have been fans of the show for a while, and maybe follow us on social media, you probably saw a pop-up about a local location that we talked about, Snakes and Lattes.
So a year later, the sign finally came down. So Snakes and Lattes is officially out of Virginia Beach. And I know we talk about supporting your local game stores a lot.
Yes.
But here's the deal. your local game stores are part of our community.
Right.
You know, the people that are in there are people that are doing it not to get rich, because you're just not going to. But they're there because they love this hobby. Where places like Snakes and Lattes was trying to make money on our community and not giving the people, you know, that work for them the respect. So we decided they weren't worth it, and waged a campaign to make sure they never open the doors again. Somebody else can fill that spot.
Yeah, in reality, it was a matter of them taking advantage of the members of our local community. And while nothing they did was technically illegal, ethically is a completely different stance.
Right?
But that being said, we now have that space, so we'll see what happens there. You know, hopefully we get an opportunity for another cafe that opens up. That's a place where gaming can go and flourish. Like that was something that was really good while it was there.
Yeah, and it's in such a great location too.
Yeah.
You know, it's right by one of the only malls we still have functioning in the area, probably one of the most popular. There's all sorts of dining and stuff going on in that area. They got great parking. So if you're listening and you're like, man, I should start a gaming cafe. Well, I know a spot. So
yeah, pick it up before Panera moves back in.
That's right.
So yeah, that's pretty much all of our local game store news. But we got a couple of the quick things we want to talk about before we hop into our main segment.
Right. And speaking of pickup, every now and then, I think there's a little device or there's something that kind of pops up that we always look at and go, is this going to be a fad? A prime example is the Tebaru when we first saw that. And while the Tebaru is much larger than the little product that we're looking at right now, I don't think that it can be overstated just how good this little gadget is.
Yeah. So if you have ever played any sort of game that has cards in it, whether it be a board game or a true card game, you know how difficult it can be to pick cards up off a table, especially if you don't have any kind of neoprene mat or anything underneath it. It's just a pain.
Heroes of Arcadia is one that we have enjoyed for a while, but part of the game is picking up the tiles and flipping them over to see what's underneath them. And last year, they started giving out these little rubber swords that had suction cups on the end of them to help pick it up, and they worked okay.
Yeah.
But somebody took it a step further because technology and innovation happens. And these guys developed the pickup, right? P''KUP.
Is it just pickup?
It might be. I was being fancy.
Peacup.
Yeah.
That don't sound right.
However you want to say it, go check this thing out. If you, like, again, have any sort of a game that you use cards, this little device, it's just a simple little cylinder with a suction cup on the end. You just pop it down and you pick up your cards right away, and it's got like this little release button on the top of it. Simple, amazing design.
It is even capable of picking up a stack of multiple cards. So we've been playing around with that, trying to figure out what that limit is, and we're not quite sure yet.
Right.
But it does work really, really well, especially for single cards. There's a little button on the top that will release whatever you've picked up. So it's just really nice and clean. It's pretty simple design, but it works really, really well. So especially if you find yourself playing a game that, maybe you don't have your mat or any kind of neoprene mat, and it's great for probably games you could play at like a bar or, I don't know, maybe a game cafe. So yeah, definitely something to go check out if it's something that you get annoyed by. I know I was playing like Magic the Gathering and other card games like that. I used to hate when I would leave my mat at home just because it made playing the game so much harder. So this is definitely something to take a look at if that's something you have frustrations with.
I think too, it's kind of an important point that while most of us like have no problem, and this is just a convenience factor for somebody that may be older or somebody that may have some sort of disability, arthritis, like something that makes it difficult for, dexterity in your hands, this could totally be a game changer for them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's easy to use. It's easy to hold. Would be huge for somebody that has problems picking up cards because of, like I said, a disability or something. So Google it. For us, it popped up on our social media a lot. Kind of lulled me in slowly.
That's how they get you.
Right?
Darn algorithm.
At first, again, I was like, this looks like this looks like it's going to be a gimmick. And the more I looked at it, and the more I watched, the more videos I started checking out. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to buy one. And then I bought 3. So we had plenty to test out.
Yeah. And then lastly, for our opening, we want to give a shout out to really a guy who has been a large part of the D&D ecosphere for a long time now. If you haven't heard the news already, Chris Perkins announced his retirement from Wizards of the Coast after 28 years.
First of all, I can't imagine staying at a job for 28 years, either because I'll get bored and leave or get fired, one of the two. But that's a long time to get to live in this like gaming sphere.
Yeah.
I mean,
he started out writing articles and stuff for the original magazine, and I think ended up becoming editor and then editor in chief, like just working his way up through, and then all the way to where he was in the past few years. He was product lead on multiple releases, as well as lead story designer on various adventure modules.
I've got him as the former creative director for D&D.
Sure. That's probably his official title.
Yeah. Chris did a lot of stuff. From going from the editor of Dragon Magazine, which I have missed. Like, that's how I got into it at first, was picking up, there was the Dungeon Magazine and then Dragon Magazine, because we've got a shtick to stick to, all the way up to the position where he was leading the design of, future Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I think my first kind of recognition of who he was from his work with the Acquisitions Incorporated team.
Yes.
Because he was the GM for them for a few years.
Yeah.
And he had the main show. He also did the C team.
Yep.
So yeah, that was kind of my first like interaction with who he is as a game master, designer, that sort of thing.
So he handed that off to Jeremy Crawford, who's the lead rule designer. And there's a lot of speculation on who's going to take his place. God knows there are plenty of names.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested to see who would be willing to work at Wizards of the Coast.
Sure. Yeah. Either way, this is somebody who has contributed many years to the game that many of us love.
Right.
So, we can't say enough appreciation for that, because I'm sure that he has poured a lot of his, heart and soul into the products that they made.
Yep.
Not always the greatest, let's be honest. Sometimes there were some missteps here and there, which, we have frequently called out, the Pinkertons.
Yeah.
But, that's as a company. But Chris himself seems like a great guy. And I know that he will be sorely missed.
He did say that he was excited to finally be able to play D&D as a fan.
Yeah.
Because I can only imagine in 28 years, anytime he sat at a table, he was taking notes in his head.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Especially as they begin to kind of plan and roll out the new edition that just came out. I 100% can see, especially for the past, 10 years or so.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
So,
yeah, man, I guess thanks are definitely in order, and absolutely wish him the best. Curious to see if this is a retirement or if he's going to jump on some new projects. So I guess we'll see. Just don't revive the Hadozi.
So I'll say goodbye. Let's put the sun back in the sky. Tired of crying, don't call me back to say I'll say goodbye.
So I guess we start this off with board gaming is a luxury hobby.
yes.
This is not something that, is a necessity. It is something that we do because we have that opportunity. And we try to share it with as many people as possible because we love what we're doing. And we love sitting around the table. We love getting to meet new people. And there's a lot of great social aspects that come with this.
Yes.
So, but if you've listened to any of the previous episodes, the thing we're not going to talk about this time, and just some kind of other factors that can affect board games, and board game publishers are really we're gonna feel the crunch here probably in the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, definitely sooner rather than later. We've talked about that in the past couple episodes. Obviously, we're referring to tariffs. They seem to be still fluctuating, even at the overnight almost. So that's not the point of this, though. The point is, what can we do?
Right. So I don't think there's a facet of the board game industry that's not going to be affected by this. And I think for some places, there's going to be a cascading effect, right? Because publishers and producers and companies that are crowdfunding their games, or even some of the bigger ones that are just going straight to retail, all get their supply from basically the same place.
Sure. Manufacturing in China has become a staple of the board game industry.
So getting the games here is going to be more expensive. And we've talked a lot about the thin margins that a lot of these companies operate on.
Yeah, especially smaller companies. And that thin margin translates into your local retail stores as well, right? There's just not a crazy amount of money in this industry.
Right. I don't think I ever realized it, like I said, until we had talked to Sam during Gen Con the last time around. And I started to think about, we've had a lot of game producers that we have talked to, designers, things like that, that are these small indie designers. And it kind of hit me that none of them are doing this full time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I remember at Gen Con when I was running a couple of the Forges games for in the play area that we had. One of the groups that I had were like, "Do you work for BA Games full time?" And I started laughing, and Ed was standing right next to me. And I was like, "Ed, you hear that?" They asked if I work for BA Games full time, and he said, "I wish I worked for BA Games full time." So yeah, most of these, especially smaller indie publishers, they have their day jobs.
Right. They putting food on the table isn't happening by them making board games, but they're doing it because they love it, and this is something that they want to keep doing. I mean, it's kind of the same reason we keep doing this podcast.
Sure.
We're not huge. We probably could be if we were less lazy. Social media killing us. If you're out there and you're like, you know what? I'd like to do social media for these guys. We don't pay much, but we'll cook you
I'd like
dinner.
to do charity.
Just tried not to use the C word, but yeah. But it's that kind of thing. You know, we do this because we enjoy doing it. We do this because we have loved the people that we have met and talked to. And it kind of gives us a way to sit down and talk about the parts of this community that we love.
Yeah. So that being said, now more than ever, it is important that you support your local stores.
Yes.
So hopefully they will not feel the crunch as much, but it's going to happen. So it's easy to buy from online retailers like Amazon and other big box places. We obviously, as we said before, we understand it's a luxury hobby.
Yep.
And sometimes as money gets tight in every other area, you try to get the best price you can. We completely understand. And if it's not an option for you, it's not an option.
Yep.
You know, and this is not a we're going to look down on you because you bought that game from Amazon.
Unless you buy Monopoly.
Then we'll look down on you because you bought Monopoly, regardless of where it came from.
If you're going to buy it, at least get it at your local game store.
Exactly. A lot of the game stores that we have talked to over the years are like small operations.
Yeah.
Right. It's one, maybe two people, maybe a couple part-timers, like, and that's that. Right. We've talked to many people where if they aren't there, the doors ain't open.
That's right.
Right. And so by all means, do your best to find and buy local if you can.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in our area, we have a ton of that opportunity. There are multiple different locations and different stores that you could go to. If you don't know where to, by all means, send us a message. We'll gladly point you in the right direction. But do a little bit of research and find what may be near to you.
Yeah.
There may be some hidden gems that maybe you never knew about. I know we've ran into that. That's actually how we found Forge and Factions.
Yeah.
I had to go to a FedEx store to ship something off and looked across the parking lot and said, "Hey, that looks like it might be a game store.
That looks geeky as hell.
Yeah.
Let me go check that out.
So you never know, like businesses are popping up all the time. And maybe their, outreach on social media or whatever may not have quite hit your circle. So by all means, look and see what's around you and go check some things out, because, they're going to need all the help that they can get, especially if they're a newer store as well. They could definitely use your support.
Yeah. And it's not just the retail portion of it either.
Sure.
A lot of these stores, and matter of fact, everyone that I have ever been to, I think the business model over the last 15, 20 years has really changed from just being your friendly local game store where you can go buy all of your minis and paint supplies and games and D&D and geeky software. One of ours is big. Matter of fact, I think all of them that I've walked into have some sort of a Lego display somewhere. But on top of that, where you can actually give them money for a product, most of them run events.
Yeah.
If you go online, you can find the calendar of, hey, Mondays we do this, Tuesdays we do this, Wednesday, and it is, D&D, the Adventure League. It is Magic the Gathering. It is Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon or a ton of other card games.
Yep.
Where people will sit down and play. There's mini painting classes you can take. There are wargaming tournaments and stuff you can come into. In our local area, especially, we've talked to the Rogue GM, which works really closely with Tower Games. And they're having people come in, and they have a room designated for, TTRPGs. And they're coming in, and they're playing, and, it is something that they pay for to go to, which we had talked about. Go back and listen to that episode, somewhere in the 50s. I don't know. I'll throw it in here later.
Just as a reminder to the audience and Jim, episode 56, You Get What You Pay For, was where the boys talked to the Rogue GM, Chris. They also talked to Charlie, the Inked GM, in episode 58, Charlie and the Homebrewed Dystopia.
But yeah, the events that you're going to go, some of them are free, some of them you pay for, but even if they're free, when you're in the store, grab a Coke.
Yeah. Because even that kind of thing definitely helps the store, even if it's not buying a $60 game or whatever. Right. If you're there to play Magic or something like that, maybe pick up a pack or a couple of cards maybe that you need for a deck you're building. Even those small purchases make a difference for that store. Yeah. Right. And then if you don't have the ability to support financially, tell your friends about it. Yeah. Right. Tell the people that we all interact with people every day, whether it's, friends or at our jobs or whatever. Like, if you feel comfortable, by all means, let them know, hey, like, went over, hung out over here at this store, had a really great time. They got a lot of really cool stuff. Like, if that's something you're into, go check it out. Because who knows? They may not even know that store exists.
Yeah. Yeah. I do know in the local area too, with the Rogue GM and with some of the stores, they do kind of partner with like the breweries around here and stuff to do game nights. So, I mean, it may not always be at the store. Yeah. But it's a good idea to go in there if this is something you love and it's something you enjoy, to go in there and just talk to the staff, kind of get to meet them, because they're going to tell you about what they're doing for sure. Yeah. Which is a great way for you to get involved and, really be part of your gaming community. I know here we do have the Tidewater Area Gaming Society as well that gets together once or twice a month at some of the local libraries and just kind of walk in and they just play games. People bring games and they play games. Yeah. Another way to kind of spread it where that's not going to make anybody money, but, like you can play a game and then want the game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an opportunity again, just to help strengthen that community aspect.
I think on top of that as well, local game stores we have always advocated for. But again, since doing this podcast, I think our niche that we found is local game or indie games. Our niche that we found is really those indie game designers.
Yeah, the small publishers that, you may have never heard of before.
You probably have never heard of before.
Yeah, let's be fair. They are the rows at Gen Con and PAX that some people never make it to, right?
And I mean, I get it. The big game companies got a lot of flash. Like, let's look at, come on, like, holy crap. You want minis? Come on, got you minis.
Yeah. And you look at, conventions when you're talking about the larger, like, companies, right? They'll have, 6 or 8 booth worth of spots just for their one big thing,
Or
right?
they'll build a castle right there in the middle of their booth.
eBay. Or, they'll have a second level on top of their product. So, like it's easy to see those and people are attracted to those, right? And a lot of times those are the hot games, right?
Oh yeah.
But I think we found some of the coolest products in these like smaller companies, right? There's always like now. Let me preface that by saying they're not all created equal,
Right.
right?
Not every pitch is a home run, guys.
Yeah. But at the same time, you get the same thing with larger companies as well. It's just their good games and their bad games are all at the same booth.
Yeah.
Here, you actually got to move around a little bit. But that being said, we found so many cool, like little gems and little opportunities and things like that of like from these smaller publishers and designers, stuff that we didn't really realize was even a thing.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, God, how many people have we really interacted with that this has been, I mean, life changing for us? We have gotten to be involved in stuff. Here at the Dapper Meeple / BA Games East, we've been a big fan of, the guys, for a while now, and we've had the opportunity to work with them. And then through that, we've got the opportunity to meet other people in the industry and just like get the behind the scenes look.
Yeah.
Which has been cool for us, but we've also got to see what it's like for these indie companies trying to make it.
Yeah.
And we've seen a couple of them, time and time again. Flag Bearer Games is one that we always stop by their booth, and we supported their last Kickstarter. They're there every time,
Yeah.
fighting to make it. Fire and Ash, while not directly a game company, a small gaming accessory company that has taken off.
Yeah.
And are doing really well, which we always want to see.
Yeah, by all means. And, these are just, some small examples of the people we've gotten a chance to meet. And there are thousands more that we have not,
Oh
Oh
my God. I can't, the Bigfoot game. The truck Bigfoot.
Oh. Yeah, XYZ Game Labs.
They had a booth as we were walking around. And again, Gen Con's big, and getting to every booth that's a challenge.
It is.
Especially when you're working 6 or 7 hours. Got to make the commitment, right?
Yeah.
But we were drawn to the game with, their dice are just miniature monster truck tires.
Yeah.
Little things like that will catch people's attention to go over there. And then it's kind of like, wow, this is something that I like.
Yeah, and there is so much of that, especially at conventions. So that's kind of the first thing, if you are able to attend conventions, specifically some of the larger ones like Origins, PAX Unplugged, Gen Con, some of the other PAX as well. I don't know how much indie designers get into their board game sections,
Right.
But definitely the big three. Or if you're able to attend, Essen over in Europe, like, take time to visit some of these smaller booths.
Yep.
Right. Even if it's just, passing by, look for opportunities to, something catches your eye, ask about it. Cause everyone who is involved in this hobby, especially on that indie level, is excited to tell you about what they've made. Right. They're passionate about it. That's why they're there. That's why they've put up the money. Cause I'll guarantee you that many of those people probably do not make the money back that they put up for those booths.
Oh no, not at all. Again, seeing our side of it and just kind of doing the math in my head of what it took to be at Gen Con with the, force that we had.
Yeah.
And we were stretching it thin.
Yeah, for sure. Now, there are other conventions too, especially on the local level. If you have, something like that, I know around here, we had Bird Quest that happened. We have Tidewater Comic Con. We have sometimes Hampton Comic Con if it comes back.
Yeah. Yep.
So there are opportunities like that as well at your more local or kind of more regional, I guess would be kind of the way to put it.
Yeah.
Conventions, a lot of times you'll be able to find some there. Those are all great opportunities because when you buy a product from especially a smaller company at a convention, you help them bypass the extra charges of like distribution and all those things, which we've talked about that before when we were talking about kind of breakdowns of how things cost in the industry. That helps you to get a little more money into their pocket.
Right. Which is kind of the point right now. The other big way that a lot of them get their name out there is through crowdfunding.
Yes.
Which we've always talked about. We even have a whole segment dedicated to it. Kickstarter, GameFound, the two big ones where you can go and find where these people are trying to publish, because it's just become the model now, right?
Sure. And a good crowdfunding campaign can set up a company for the next, 3 or 4 games that are coming out.
And you can read on there, and we've talked about it. There's always some risk to it, and there have been a couple of major failures. But for the most part, I know every Kickstarter that we've backed, at some point, we've gotten the product.
Sure. And, obviously delays and things like that are kind of part of that ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So, to each your own risk. But at the same time, again, that is a more direct way of getting product from these smaller companies.
Yeah.
Right. And then lastly, I think in that some of them, especially companies who have already like put out and produced product or a game, if you can order it directly from them through their website or something like that, which not all of them allow or have access to, but if that's an option, that's another great way to get your hands on it.
It is.
So if it goes to distribution, which many of them, try to get them there, it's definitely a much wider net. So it'll go to, game stores and things like that, or at least be able to go there, which is great. So that means more people will hopefully get their hands on it. But it does come at a cost.
Yeah.
So if you find, especially a small publisher you enjoy, and you're looking for their game and don't mind, maybe waiting it besides, picking it up locally or something like that, might be an option for you to consider, because you can definitely support them that way if they have it.
You can also talk to your local game store and request the game. And if enough people come in and talk about it, they will go to their distributor and try to find it.
Yes.
Right? So again, another way that you can support. I think it's important too that we talk about, with Kickstarter, some of them can get big,
Sure.
right? And again, luxury hobby, you may not always have the financial means to support, backing something or, doing that pledge. But sharing the information, putting it out on social media and stuff like, hey, this looks cool to me, and have other people see it is a way to help. And for a lot of them, they have the I believe button pledge, which is like $1 to $5 that you just throw in there because, hey, I think you're going to do great.
Yeah. You want to support the creator, which I think is a fantastic way to do as well, especially if, maybe financially you can't go big. One thing that does also do is usually put you in for the pledge manager, which if you're not familiar with the crowdfunding model, normally there's a campaign period somewhere usually around 30 days, give or take, depending on the platform. During that time, if you pledge, right, you don't immediately like get locked in at the end of it kind of thing. There's usually a pledge manager that comes out about a month or so after the initial campaign ends. And in that pledge manager, you finalize whatever you want to buy, whether that's, the actual pledge you did, or maybe you want to add on some extras or adjust that, however you want to do it, that opens that up. A lot of times those small pledges of like $1, $5, something like that gives you access to the pledge manager. So maybe it's something like, hey, I don't have the money right now, but maybe in a month or two, by the time the pledge manager comes around, I'll be able to actually purchase something. So that lets you kind of set up for that as well. And I know I've done a lot of campaigns like that. Maybe I was on the fence or I wanted to see more about it. So I'll drop that in just for a reminder when the pledge manager drops, then I can go through and look at it. Sometimes I back some stuff. Sometimes I say, oh, all right, you guys got $1. Congratulations. Hope the project goes great. Right. Like, and that's kind of the one way that you can do that if that's something that you want to. One of the other ways that you can kind of support smaller game designers and producers and things is by looking to join either an organization or like contribute to them in some way. So one of the ones that I think about all the time is Break My Game.
Yes.
So, we talked with Joseph Frederick for Ludimus Games, who is one of the people who sits on the board of that kind of whole organization. And what they do is they provide a place for game designers to bring their game and allow game testing at like a higher level than what they would probably normally get at their local area.
Sure.
So they do both in-person testing as well as online. They have a lot of actually local game stores that have dedicated time for designers to come in and actually test their games, which is really cool. But they do also do a lot of online testing as well through like Tabletop Simulator. So that's definitely one. You can join their Discord. You can actually get involved in testing those games, which is a huge help for new designers. They also provide a lot of very specific help, as in advice in designing the game, advice in how to publish and things like that for new designers. All that sort of stuff is kind of included in that organization, which I think is really, really cool.
Yeah. Because if anybody that, for a lot of people that we've talked to, the first step was kind of the hardest.
Sure.
So something like that is really, really great for helping move along those new designers and figuring out where not to make those missteps that are going to cost you money when you can't afford it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another great group that we found that looked really interesting was the Indie Game Alliance. And they have been a lot of the big cons, like, PAX and Gen Con, where they are, again, focused on these new designers, these indie designers, bringing their game in. They have play testing. They have publishers that come in to give advice. It is a guild that is specifically focused on making new games happen.
Yeah. And when you join, if you go to join that Indie Game Alliance, you can actually put what your role is. Whether, if you're just a person who buys games, that's great. Like, there's a role for you that talks about, helping to play test and things like that. If you are a content creator, there's a role for you there, so that they know that different designers can come to you to make content about their games. There's also ones for like store owners or manufacturers or all that sort of stuff. So this is a really great way where they're trying to connect people in the industry so that everyone is able to find what they need and have the resources to be successful. So that being said, want to give a special shout out to fellow content creators. So as we've talked about before, we've kind of made our niche more or less with these kind of indie small game designers. And it's mainly because it's something we enjoy doing, and we enjoy trying to help in any way that we can. If you have a following on social media, or maybe you do game content for a living, I know a lot of times the larger companies get the most clicks and things like that. And, especially if this is your job, we completely understand. But I would challenge you to try and find some of those smaller game companies, right? Try and partner with some of the indie developers and things like that. If that's something you're not doing, there's a lot of really cool games and really cool designs and honestly really good people out there that could use any kind of platform that's available. So that would be my challenge to other content creators. Like, even if you do cover the large stuff, that's fantastic. And I hope that you find success in that. But don't be afraid to look at some of these smaller companies and some of these other games, and really kind of give them a shot.
So kind of at the end of this, we wanted to throw out a little bit of a call to action. There is a company called Terrible Games out there. They have a TikTok presence, and one of their videos came across my feed that was made March 10th of this year. And it had to do with one of their games that they had crowdfunded. They had about 2,000 backers. I think about 60 grand is what they said that they had brought in from that. And the game, once they were delivered, about 2/3 of the game ended up with mold contamination.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. And there's a little bit of irony there, which we'll get to in a second. So the company that had made the game did replace a lot of them, which, I mean, that feels like that's the right move from them. But having to get those brought in and the shipping and the storage and the distribution fees, said it cost them about $13,000,
Yeah.
that they had not planned on spending. We kind of did some estimating on what they probably actually made as profit, and it was only around probably only around 20 grand.
Yeah.
From what we figured, just from what we know. Now we could be completely wrong, but either way, $13,000 is going to cut into anybody's profit.
Sure.
So this is one of those, go check them out because they're going to need it. They have several games that they've developed, and they have another one right now, which looks like a TTRPG. I think it's Repugnant, that is out. That's out on Kickstarter right now. They also just finished up one that kind of looked interesting, and that was Token Terror Battlegrounds. I loved the little minis. Another game that you can look at that may interest you. And then the one that really, I didn't realize that this was them, is one that we had talked about in our Halloween episode, which is Black Mold, where you're a character trying to escape this area that is full of black mold. Your turn ends when you can't hold your breath anymore. Like, physically, you cannot hold your breath anymore.
Yeah, definitely go take a listen to our Halloween episode if you haven't. The roundtable discussion where we brought in the guys from BA Games and Joseph from Ludimus. There were some really cool games we talked about there, and this was one of the really interesting ones. But yeah, so this is another smaller company, right? They don't have a ton of games underneath their belt. Like, this game that they tried to make ended up having the issues with the mold, which no fault of their own. But they're trying to do what's right by their backers and could use a little bit of help. So definitely check out some of their games. And what I loved was he didn't ask for like a GoFundMe or crowdfunding or anything like that. He's like, hey, just go buy our games.
Right. I mean, it's the most pure form of, hey, we could use some help and we make cool things. How about we trade money for the cool things? Which, I'll support that. We do have a copy of Black Mold coming, and I just realized that there's an expansion, so we'll probably get that too. Yeah, this was the game this was Dave's one shining light for the games that he brought to the table.
Yeah, this is one of the only ones he didn't copy from somebody else. And yeah, just check them out. Like I said, if it's something you're looking to buy, definitely look at ordering their games off of their website. And yeah, hopefully help them be able to recover from this unfortunate incident.
All right, so there we go. When I was doing my internship at NPR, one of the things that I always loved was a phrase that they used. NPR, of course, is partially funded by the public. And the phrase was support what you love.
Yeah.
And I think it applies to us, anything that you love. Kevin Smith is also a huge, proponent of this. If you love something, you got to throw money at it in this, capitalist hellscape. That's where we are. So, if this is your thing, here's some examples. Here's some ideas. Go forth and do great things. And next up, our crowdfunding roundup.
So today we got 3 more projects for you guys. One of them coming from Kickstarter and 2 coming from GameFound. Really excited about these. One really cool IP that we've been waiting to come out to a board game version. We love the video game, but let's hop right into it. So first up on Kickstarter, we have a game called Get Stacked.
This reminds me of another game that we've done. It bills itself as an arena battle party game. But we did one earlier where you were battling in a, cosmic arena, and this kind of has the same feel. But I really like the way this allows you to level up your character.
Yeah, so the thing that stuck out to me on this was it uses a transparent card system. So you'll take your hero card and you'll have transparent upgrades that you just set on top of the card that kind of layer onto it. Mystic Vale, if you all have ever played that game, is a great example of this kind of mechanic where when you would add things to your character, you would take these kind of transparent cards and lay them on top. So it's a really, really interesting system. I think it's really cool. It adds some kind of unique flavor to your characters. Definitely the first thing that caught my eye. But this, as looking through this game, it actually looks really, really cool. And they kind of tout it as like a Mario Party style game. So
Yeah.
like a bunch of like mini games and things like that.
Yeah. So I guess it plays in 3 phases. At first, you start out by playing one of, I think, like 40 something mini games that they have available, and they're just really quick. And how well you score on those determines whether you get a bonus or not going into the round. Was it get stacked or get ranked, get stacked, so you cash in and get your upgrade cards.
Yep.
And then get attacked. So then you're actually going to fight it out in there. Really cool. I like having the extra mini games on there. I mean, it sounds like a lot of fun. I don't know which character I would pick, but if the half melted butter that they offer you as a plushie is in there, I think I'm going to have to start with that.
Yeah, this definitely is a cast of quirky characters, as well as unique items, including a half-eaten corn dog. So, yeah, like some really funny, kind of quirky stuff. This may be right up your alley when it comes to a sense of humor, but definitely one to take a look at. I think it's got a lot of potential.
So it's from Moon Crossing Games, and let's look at the pledge levels. So, like we talked about, there's always a pledge without reward that you can throw at them. So, if you want to throw them $5, $10, go for it. The first reward level is just the base game pledge. So you're going to get stacked base edition, all of the applicable stretch goals, and they'll figure out shipping later on because that number is going to be way bigger, and that's going to run you $39.
Sure. Next up, we have the base game plus pledge, which comes with all of the base game, all of the Kickstarter rewards, and then you get the Player's Choice expansion pack. And of course, shipping is not included, but that's going to run you $49.
So real quick, this Player's Choice expansion pack, anybody who backs at this level or higher is going to get a email for them to respond to kind of vote on what that expansion is going to be.
Yep.
So again, Kickstarter is crowdfunding where they're letting you help make the decision, and help kind of guide the game. It's pretty cool. Moving up to the deluxe game package, you get all the same things, but the deluxe edition includes all of the updated base game components, right? So your cardboard becomes wood. Your cardboard stacked piece where you stack your cards goes to plastic. You get new fancy dice. The cloth bag that's used for your treasure to draw goes to suede. So yeah,
Very fancy.
very fancy. It's nice. So that one's going to run you $75. You also, from here on out, it'll also include that Player's Choice expansion.
Yep. And then we lastly have the all-in pledge. So this is going to give you all of the deluxe edition items plus a folding dice tray, the lukewarm butter plush, like we were talking about earlier. And of course, you get everything from the previous tiers, and that's going to run you about $99.
Which, in the overall scheme of things, not real huge. I feel like it's a good price for this game.
I mean, how much would you pay for a half melted butter plush?
Right? You can't just get that anywhere.
That's right. It's an exclusive item.
So far they are already funded. They asked for $15,000 and they're at almost $68,000 at time of recording, and they have 21 days left to go. So the game is expected to start doing delivery in November of 2025.
So definitely go check that one out, especially if you are a fan of Mario Party and enjoy like quirky humor and things like that. It's definitely a really cool one.
So now we're going to kick over to GameFound because they're really pushing this year to be the bigger game crowdfunding platform, and they're coming out with some bangers, man.
Yeah, so this next one we have is the newest game from Chip Theory Games. So if you know anything about Chip Theory, you know they are known for their quality of games, but they actually have kind of forayed into the solo games recently with a 20 Strong, which we actually talked about in our small box game episode, which was the dice game. And here we have another solo game from them, the Dragons of Etchenstone. So this game, it was actually a print and play game for a long time. A lot of people, fans of the print and play kind of genre of games, have probably heard of this one. It is apparently like kind of one of those cult fan favorites, I guess you could say. But they partnered with the designer and put some new art on some cards just to really spice it up and bring it to life. And now we have the game as well as 2 expansions.
Right. I do love a lot of what I'm seeing as far as the artwork. I mean, very, very good artwork. The cards look easy to read. The actual art on them is just kind of stunning. Like it like jumps out at you. I also like too that there are no stretch goals on this one, and they explain like, hey, we're just trying to make the most attractive, deep, and affordable pocket game on the market, and for that reason, they decided anything that they were going to do, they've already put a price point on it on this game. They do mention tariffs as part of the reason for that again, so we're already seeing that creep into decision making. All of the cards are PVC, so you don't need to really put sleeves on them. They're going to last for a while. Yeah, and it just, again, they're doing really great things with solo player games.
Yeah, so the way the game actually plays, it's only 18 cards, and that's the whole game. But you are trying to progress through sort of this adventure to fight one of the legendary dragons. So the main kind of mechanic is really kind of hand management. So it's a lot of people described it kind of like a really strategic puzzle. So if you're into solo games, you know that's probably the way a lot of them break down to, is kind of viewing it as a puzzle you try to figure out one way or another. But this one looks really cool. It's nice and pocketable. You can carry it around everywhere. So one of those cool little ones you can break out when you have a little bit of time just to try it out wherever you happen to find yourself.
So let's just look at the pledge levels, and this is going to be real easy. So you can get the complete game bundle, which is the game plus the 2 new expansions, for $30.
Yep. I do want to give a shout out though. They do have an add-on for the deluxe wallet, which is like a leather wallet that has the Dragons of Etch and Stone logo on the front of it that you can store the cards in to make them nice and easy to carry around. So if this is something you're interested in, or if you're a fan of the game possibly already, definitely take a look at this one. And you can pick up the game plus that wallet for about $45.
Oh, and they did have the coveted title of Chip Theory Game Strategist that you could have gotten, but 11 people have already jumped on it. And that was for, let me double check my notes, carry the two, $800. So we missed out on that, but you can still get your hands on a great game.
Yeah, so they have already reached their goal. They actually reached their goal in 1 minute and 16 seconds, which is pretty strong. They have 15 days left in this campaign, so if it's something you're interested in, definitely hop on in and take a look. So they're looking at shipping around November into this year.
Listen, citizen, do you love democracy? Not this silly kind of, rah-rah flag-waving stuff, but I mean real managed democracy. Do you know what that takes? That takes killing lots of bugs. We're talking Helldivers 2, the board game.
So if you guys have not played Helldivers 2, or maybe you might not be into video games, this one came out last year with a bang. It is still going strong, honestly. It's a really fun kind of like tactical shooter game where you're going around trying to spread managed democracy in the galaxy through use of overwhelming firepower.
That's right. Remember, kids, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Always take the 380 barrage and the 500 kiloton bomb. Just always.
Yeah, so this game and IP really gives me Starship Trooper vibes. For those of you who are fans of that series and are old enough, yeah. So here we have an actual board game based on it. First of all, I just want to put out the sculpts and stuff that they have already shown look fantastic. Everything from not only like the Helldivers, but also to the bugs and even some of the automatons that you can get with the expansion packs and upgrades. All of it just looks really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like too that you can kind of customize your character as far as weapons and armor goes, which is kind of a big thing in the actual video game to carry,
Right.
the loadout that you want. And I think they brought it over here, and it looks like they did really, really well with how they've implemented that. So let's talk a little bit about the game. For those that have never played the video game, Helldivers are supposed to be this elite force that drop in like 4-man teams with missions onto these planets that are overrun either with these massive bugs, like again, think like Starship Troopers. Complete their mission. You have to learn how to, deal with each of the bugs individually. There's also a bunch of robots that do the same sort of thing, known as the automatons, which is part of the expansion that you can get for this. And then there's some of there are the huge creatures that, these are like building size bugs and robots that you have to deal with. And those are, again, expansions that come with this.
Yeah, so this one looks really cool. It's kind of like kind of a dudes on a map dice chucker is kind of what it looks like. There are ways to adjust difficulty level, which I do like. And they also are thinking about a solo mode as well. So they talk about how you have the ability to choose between like playing as 2 Helldivers or even a team of 4. So that is kind of some elements they're considering. So a lot of good stuff so far that I've seen with this. I'm a fan of the game, of course we are. So it's something we're probably interested in picking up. They talk a little bit about basically how the combat works, where you expend ammunition and then you roll the dice to try and see if you hit. So pretty standard like dice chucker type stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see some of the mechanics as they continue to reveal them and just how that plays out. But so far, this one looks really, really cool. I'm always a fan of good IPs when they do them correctly. So Steamforged Games has a lot of really good IP games under their belt, including like the Horizon Forbidden West. They're known for Frostpunk. They did Bard Sung. They just did the Elden Ring game, which I think the Pledge Manager just closed on. So they are not new to IP games. So hopefully we get another really good game out of this company.
So let's talk about pledge levels. For the base game, which is everything you need to start defending Super Earth, it gets you the Helldivers 2 board game core box, and you can get started with that. That one's going to run you about $80. So the next up is the Galactic Commanders pledge. For $120, you get the Helldivers game. You also get the Patriot Exosuit expansion, which in the video game you call this thing down and climb into it, and it's a mech type deal, so you can walk around and shoot missiles. And then 2 other expansions which have yet to be announced. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and then lastly we have the Hell Commander pledge. So this includes everything from the Galactic Commander pledge, but then also includes the other kind of smaller expansions that have been announced, which are the Automatons expansion, the Impaler, the Bile Titan, and the Factory Strider expansion. So a lot of game here. I'm excited to see what the 2 mystery expansions are, since they're going to be unlocked during the campaign. But definitely, this one looks really cool, and it will run you about $322 for this one.
Right, and that's a lot, but remember, GameFound has stretch pay. So you could do that and then make, looks like 3 payments of $107. So spread it out a little bit.
Yep. So they're looking at getting this game shipped October of next year. So that's pretty good time, especially for as many minis and things like that. I'm sure things are in a little bit of a turmoil right now. So hopefully that quiets down before this game goes to ship.
Yeah. They're originally asking for $76,000. They funded in just over 12 minutes, and currently they're at $961,000 pledged to this. So yeah, man, it's a guaranteed.
Yeah, they got 12 days left, so there's still time for you to take a look at it and hop on if you're interested. I'm excited to see how much they're going to raise because they're starting to push really big project numbers with that. So I'm excited for that one. Definitely take a look if you're a fan of the Helldivers series, or if you just like dudes on a map and are looking to spread some democracy. And with that, the Tamer sends its young Luminesca into battle against the mysterious stranger and her Shade Claw.
Gathering energy, the young Luminesca lets out a blast of light, driving the summoned shadows from the battlefield.
But the Shade Claw is not defeated. With an otherworldly roar, it strikes out with a shadowy claw.
The young Luminesca falls prone to its wounds, while the tamer tends to its defeated partner.
The shadowy figure calls out with a sneer, "Better luck next time," and disappears with her shade claw into the darkened forest.
For the Dapper Meeple, I'm Jim.
And I'm Josh. Good night, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for sticking around and listening to our show.
If you enjoyed it, let me ask you a favor. Follow us and leave a like wherever you get your podcasts. It'll really help us out.
And if you have anything to say back to us, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for the Dapper Meeple. Or you can email us at dappermeeplegaming@gmail.com.
And as always, we'll save you a seat at the table.